I don't even know where to start. Where do you start in vintage?
I like to tell people to start with either something simple like a gloss style from the 80s. So like this is a 5513 gloss style that they made throughout the 80s.
What is gloss
really
style?
Nice. So it's got a lacquer finish as opposed to a matte dial, which is matte.
Okay.
So, these you could still get at a reasonably affordable price point. Obviously, everything's gone up, but you could still get these, let's say, like low mid teens and sometimes even under 10 grand. It just depends on the condition. All of the matte dial stuff, whether it's plastic or sapphire, is all well over 10 grand for anything good. Like, you're mid to high teens. So like, for example, this is a GMT matte dial from like 1973, unpolished case, perfect condition, and it's a little bit over 20 grand.
Did they stop the matte dials after a certain point?
So they stopped the matte dials, they stopped the matte dials at the end of the 70s.
Adam is hands down the most knowledgeable person when it comes to vintage watches.
I also tell people just getting into vintage, you could go with something sapphire, call it neo vintage now, from the 80s, 90s, that still has tritium dial, so it still has nice patina. Something maybe two-tone, so it's a little bit cheaper, Two-tone's still really underappreciated, although it's been making a run just like everything else. But younger people are starting to wear it. This used to be like the old man's watch, or like the Miami Beach Police. Like all the cops used to wear two-tone subs back in the day. Now, like younger people are getting into them, which is great. And I actually wear two-tone as well. I don't mind it. You could still get two-tones for cheaper than steel.
And honestly, like sometimes they look better.
Yeah, no, look, fantastic looking watch. People are overlooking like Tudors also. So like this is a mid-sized Tudor sub that's under $5,000. So it's like the size of a Datejust, but it fits well, because it's a submariner style watch.
In my opinion.
Or you could get something like this, which is a snowflake. So it's they nickname it the snowflake because of the shape of the hands. But it's a Tudor submariner from the same era, late 60s, 70s, etc.
Right. Essentially, it's the same watch though, right?
And it's the only one that's blue. Like, you don't have a Rolex sub from this era that's blue.
Yeah.
And Tudors have remained steady and consistent. It looks almost identical to a sub. Different movements, got an ETA movement. But essentially, it's the same watch, because it was made by Rolex. When people ask me, like, what's the first starter Rolex to buy, I always say something like this, where you get, again, neo vintage.
Right.
Doesn't have to be Explorer, but it can be 16570 or 16610 Submariner, something like that, because you can still find them under 10 grand. This one, beautiful patina, so it has like a vintagey look, because it's got nice yellow patina, but it's more of a sturdy watch, so it's more something more modern, it's something like that. Right, and these are under 10 grand. This one is 87.50. And you can't get a vintage Explorer for that price. These are both well over 20 grand.
I mean, this looks great though.
Yeah,
like that was
exactly.
Like off-white cream.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the best of both worlds. Because you get a patina look, like a vintagey look, but you get a sturdy watch with a sapphire crystal that you could go swimming with if you wanted to.
And it's affordable.
And it's affordable. Key point. The great thing about vintage is that there's so many brands out there and there's so much stuff. You could go for a great Speedmaster, which is a classic watch. There's a whole world of Patek, Vacheron, AP, JLC, Hoyer. There's so many different things out there. There's something for everybody.
It's pretty diverse.
Well, the cool thing about vintage is that every watch is unique. They all have different character. They all age differently. So you're not going to have two watches that are identical. Never. You'll never have two watches that are identical because they're worn. They're not produced anymore. Like that watch, somebody could be in this room, more than one people could be in this room with that 100%. Same exact watch, the same exact condition. But like no one's going to be in the room with the same exact watch in the same exact condition. The same exact watch with the same exact patina or the bezel aged pink like that. Might be similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. The good stuff's going to continue to go up because as more people want it, it's harder to find, and the real collectors are holding on to their shit. They're not selling. You know how many watches I've tried to buy throughout COVID because like, oh, everybody needs money, they want to sell, COVID, no one wants to sell, they only want to hold on to their watches, and they're like, can't replace them. Can't get another one,
Yeah, that's what it's come to. You really can't replace the watches that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying.
And then you can't replace it at the price point because you sell it for 15 and then you want to buy it back, now it's 18 6 months later.
These are some of my favorites. Tell me more about the beaches.
It was like 3 different serials in the early 2000s that they made them. And the funniest part is that like my mom has a pink one that my dad bought for her in 2011 for $11,000.
You're kidding.
And she wears it, she's beat it up, no problem. And I'm like, Mom, you got to be careful. That's like a $60,000 watch now.
Literally.
She's like, But I think they were really underappreciated for a really long time. Like Rolex didn't make a lot of stuff like this, especially during that era. Like, look at the way the stone aged. It's not even technically a stone, but look at the way it aged, where it's like lighter on one side and darker on the other. Like, you just don't get stuff like that, Like that's factory original at least. Usually, people have like weird aftermarket stuff, but
No, this is insane.
yeah.
Are these dials? What are these dials made out of?
Like mother of pearl.
Okay.
This one's not. That's what's it called? Catadonia or Caledonia or something like that. Yeah. So that's mother of pearl, and that's like something else, some other. Yeah. But yeah, really cool watches, man. Like really, just like unique and cool stuff. There was a guy here all day yesterday who had the blue one. And like he bought it for like 30 grand, a while ago, and he's like, I don't want to sell it, because there's nothing like it, especially for Rolex. Like you get a black dial or you get a white dial. For them to have made that watch, especially at the time they made it, was something special, and they were really underappreciated for a long time, I don't know if the current market value is the true value, if it'll go down, whatever, but they were worth more than they were selling for 10 years ago for
100%.
fucking sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So I got to get back to selling people watches who actually want to buy.
I actually want to buy. Wow. Wow,
I love you, man. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Appreciate all your help.
I'll come
See you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Adam.